From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 180. This is the 180 episode, the backwards episode. If you play this episode backwards, you will get my mother's hit recipe for holiday turkey stuffing and dressing. Maybe. We'll see. But no, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. We're going to start that off with a fun little story. We're going to talk about some sides and how Thanksgiving food generally sucks. We also talk about anything but a backpack day. Find out what that is. OSU versus Michigan going on this weekend as we're recording this. And we're going to put a small wager on it as we have Michigan and Ohio State fans represented amongst the three of us. Hunting, dry cleaning, and then some recommendations for streaming, including the Severance, back into WWE and Andor, Spirited, the Bad Guys, the World Cup going on. Friends, this is an episode that is all over the place. It was certainly fun to record. We hope that it is fun to listen to. We also hope that you have a wonderful and special holiday season as it kicks off this week. Enjoy this episode.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the middle after dark over here.
1953. There was a colossal mistake at Swanson's. An employee had mistakenly ordered too many frozen turkeys to the tune of 260 tons of frozen turkeys left over sitting in 10 refrigerated boxcars. The train's refrigeration worked only when the cars were moving. So Swanson had the trains traveling back and forth between its Nebraska headquarters and the East Coast until panicked executives could figure out what to do. Jerry Thomas, a salesman for the company, had the bright idea to add holiday staples such as cornbread stuffing and sweet potatoes, and to serve them alongside the bird in frozen partitioned aluminum trays, of which he ordered 5,000. Betty Cronin, Swanson's bacteriologist, helped the meals succeed with her research into how to heat the meat and vegetables at the same time while killing food-borne germs. And that, my friends, in 1953 is how the TV dinner was invented.
Wow.
I'm surprised no one suggested just plant some turkey trees. So that way you'd use them and have turkeys for future generations.
So while I was going through, trying to find fun stories. I have some other stories and stats and facts because that's the kind of thing I like to do around holidays. That story, I came across it, man, and it just made me feel good. There's a fun little Thanksgiving story. There's an employee who made a giant mistake. And it led to this industry. The following year, like they sold like 10 million TV dinners because of this mistake.
I appreciate your love of research and themed holiday research and the fun little things that you come up with. Isn't there like a huge amount of inventions that were born out of like accidents and mistakes? And I mean, ice cream, I think, was an accident when that first got created, and all kind of things like that. I love that.
And to think we still don't have that pizza oven from Back to the Future, where it was like the like boiling hot pizza in like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's almost an air fryer. We're almost there, but like
we're almost there.
But that's I want that. I want like the tiny shrunken pizza up to that thing looks like a Totino's or something, and then it's up to this huge, delicious, fresh hot pizza in minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't just the temperature, the rapid acceleration of temperature. It was the size increase that I appreciated. And we also need to get on top of the dinners in one candy morsel, like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes. And that would be fantastic. And I think, as someone who's been watching a lot of Star Trek and Star Trek adjacent things, a replicator.
Yes.
We need a replicator.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what feeds invention? Accidents. You know what else feeds invention? Thinking outside the box. And I just heard of something for the first time. Sherry and I had to help our daughter come up with something for anything but a backpack day. Have you Have you guys heard of this?
No.
Okay.
I think it has already explained itself. I want to hear that. I want to verify that. So please.
It has, but Sherry was sharing this with me. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to still read. So no worries. If you're not on YouTube, I fully recognize that we are a podcast and not a YouTube channel.
Corey has started. Oh, okay.
So anything but a backpack day takes high schools by storm. Microwaves, baby carriages, wagons, toy shopping carts, guitar cases, and cereal boxes are some of the carriers taking the place of backpacks and handbags on anything but a backpack day. Students all over the United States are showing off their school spirit by bringing anything but backpacks to store their supplies as a way to connect as a student body. Students have had a tough couple years of transitioning to at-home learning and then back to in-person classes. So schools are letting their students get creative in order to reignite the school spirit. The rules are that students must come to class carrying everything they need in anything but a normal backpack. It has to be able to carry their textbooks and laptops. Teenagers are often the most clever, and they've proven themselves once again. The limit does not exist when you give them a challenge. Check out these fun and wacky alternatives to backpacks. So I got a few pictures. So this kid is rolling a stroller.
Very good.
Through the schools hallways. We've got everything from pillowcase, cooler, luggage, guitar case, and Little Tykes shopping cart.
I don't know about the airport luggage. That basically just feels like a fancy backpack.
This kid's carrying a microwave around.
He's my favorite so far. Yeah, by far.
Number 4 is a girl carrying a cat carrier. We got this kid with like some
looks like an ice box.
1990s were a big year for that country sort of furniture with the tinfoil stamped bottom thing on the Target shopping cart. We got bird cages
stolen.
We got just like organizer tote things, buckets. Yeah, I thought these were quite funny. Somebody just has the old AV cart. Pot.
I'm surprised I haven't. I was just gonna say a laundry basket or like a small trash can,
or a large trash can. As one kid brought one of the big old.
There you go, toy dump truck with a string tied around it.
I like that one.
With all these conspiracy articles going around the web, I'm surprised nobody had like. I'm surprised nobody had like a kitty litter box. That's multi-purpose with all the stuff that's getting made up in the news, right?
I want to point out specifically. I want to highlight the shop vac,
the fishing net.
Kid with the shop vac. Kid with a very large landing net for fishing.
Yeah.
More strollers. This all looks like the same school, so we're not getting a lot of variety here. But yeah, this is what we had to help Chloe come up with.
Center console from a car.
With a lot of gross drippings on it from their vehicle.
But the drink holders are very practical. That's great.
The lawn spreader. The lawn
spreader.
spreader. Yeah, the lawn seed spreader, shoebox. Anyway, fun times, and I had to get you guys' take on that. That is not something that I had heard of before.
That is wonderful. You said your daughter's doing this, or?
Yes, she is. And so if you don't know, so it's a short week here in the U.S. for students because we have Thanksgiving this week. Happy Thanksgiving tomorrow, everyone. This episode drops on Wednesday, so you'll be getting this then. So we just have a big cooler with 2 wheels in the back and the handle that comes up. So she's
Okay.
doing the cooler. We were going to suggest a skateboard with like a black rubber bungee strapped around her books in the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
She also was going to do, we had a bunch of different ideas, but yeah, I thought that was a fun little thing worth mentioning.
I like it.
I am surprised I didn't see any straight up trash bags. Like that would have felt like the easy, everyone can grab a trash bag home.
I feel like that'd be more of like if they tried to do this in college, that'd be the approach. In high school, I feel like they have to like, at some point, they're going to have to start pumping the brakes on it. Because you will get people with like a hand truck and a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put the kibosh on that at some point. But
yeah, trash bag is a tote in college isn't even an event. That's just
that's like in Tommy Boy when he's like, "Oh, that's got to be you." When that's the luggage that gets off the plane, and that's like the equivalent of the person going to trick or treat with a sheet over their head with 2 holes cut out of it. It's like, come on.
That does remind me. I've never seen anyone dress up like. Speaking of carrying things, I've never seen anyone dress up like Buddy the Elf carrying a VCR with 11 cookies shoved in it. That feels like a really, like, who needs the VCR anymore? And like a nice accessory to that costume.
Yeah.
Great point. And Elf is going to come up again later in this episode. But how's it going, gentlemen? How are you? What's going on? Tell me about your weekends. We had a great episode last week with the fellas from Grab 'em in the Brisket. So if you haven't already, and you're in the spirit to think about and consume lots of foods, go back and listen to last week's episode. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
We've shared some videos on that to our socials. What's up,
man? Went to a Blue Jackets game, hockey game, Columbus Blue Jackets last night. Got friends of ours who have season tickets, and they're very kind about giving those away when they can't get to the games. And so our family got to go, and it is the now 4th time in the last couple of years that our kids, that specifically my oldest son, has been to a hockey game, and this is the first time that he's been there where they won. And so that was exciting. Yeah, hockey games sucked there for a while. Now all of a sudden they're cool. So thank you, Columbus Blue Jackets, and thank you to my friends for giving.
I was gonna say, I was pretty sure. Did we talk about this at the beginning of the season or last season, where you went to a couple and maybe they were slightly more into it the second time, but it was a sort of experience. I'm so glad that they won. You walk out of the stadium feeling, you have a much better night, and you're so excited.
Exactly. Yeah. So my oldest son, like, he's always been wanting to go back, but the other two were kind of like, yeah, whatever. If we go, we go. No, don't. I'm like, this is awesome, kids. You've got it. Hockey is my favorite sport to see in person, and it's not even close. And man, I also just flat out love the sport, so I've got that going for it.
And it doesn't hurt when you're at a Jackets game that you get to hear the cannon go off. That's an added layer of fun.
Yeah, it is. Surprises a little kid and the first time that happens. And you forget to warn them about it.
Yeah. I mean, the first time you poop your pants, but after that, you're prepared. Way more fun as an adult. Well, you asked what we were up to recently. I know part of what you were up to because I was there. We had, for anyone tuning in, Corey and I are brothers. We had a wedding in the family, so we had that this past weekend, which was a lot of fun. I'm very slowly building the Lego Home Alone house as part of our Christmas decor for this year. It's coming along. It's taking a long time because I'm just doing like 30 minutes or an hour at a time here or there. And we have it. It's been spread out on our dining room table for weeks. But it's tons of fun. It's looking really good. And we even got some little lights, I think, to put around it once it's all done. So that's been a lot of fun. Maybe I'll do a little mid-bit video when it's all built to show off some of the details. But that was I think that was a little bit of our weekend. We were doing very adulty things. We went to a wedding. We went to Lowe's. My wife said I went into Clark Griswold mode because we were trying to figure out some holiday lights, and I drew a diagram. And she's like, "I've never seen you like this before." Wow! I'm like, well, I have to have the right number of like outdoor extension cords and the right number of plugs, and we're gonna get a thing on a timer, and so like it's got to make sense. Like I have to measure. I can't just like throw a bunch of extension cords.
Yeah.
You've had a Christmas tree up for how long, and now you're planning on your mapping out. I really like homeowner Dylan.
Yeah, this is
big fan.
I need to see this diagram, and I'm so excited because this is your first house. It's your first time decking it out with lights. I really need to see this diagram.
Well, I think we're at least for this year and maybe for the foreseeable future, we're really just kind of thinking about the front porch. So I think in her mind, it started getting serious when I sort of drew the front porch with a vanishing point so that like the corners, and then I'm doing like bar over here, bar across 31 feet, and then I'm marking this 8 feet up. And so I'm doing sort of these, I'm noting where things are and the measurements of each, and I'm figuring out we have one plug on the front porch, which would make sense if we want everything all through like a sensored timer that detects when it gets dark. And then and then trying to figure out I need this length to get over here. And so it's really not elaborate at all, but it requires just enough planning that like I could just buy a cart full of stuff at Lowe's and then have way more stuff than I need. So and then she's like, well, I like the LED rope. And then you're like, okay, well, there's like bright white, and then there's warm white, and then there's like multicolored, and what kind of rope, because we can wrap it around the thing, or do you just want like an LED strip, on the back? So, there's lots to consider. So I have the diagram. Maybe we can share that as a photo out after this episode.
For sure. Share it this is a good plug for our Facebook group, not page, Facebook group, From the Middle for the Middlers, where we share extra fun content on the socials. And we expect you to do the same. That's why it's called For the Middlers and not for Kendall, Corey, and Dylan. So that's awesome. I'm excited for you. And yes, the wedding festivities were so fun. Could not be more excited for our cousin Haley. So so I'm the oldest of the next generation on one side of our family, and then it goes Dylan, and then the very next cousin is Haley. And Haley married Matt, and they're a cute couple, and it was a beautiful like late fall, basically winter wedding in a barn near Amish country here in Ohio. And Sherry and I were honored to be asked to be in the bridal party, and groomsmen festivities started the Wednesday before the wedding, not the week before, the Wednesday before the wedding. And then bachelorette bridesmaid festivities started on Thursday. And so we were away from home for 4 or 5 days with all of that. And there were big, gigantic Airbnbs that we stayed in, and all the girls in one house and all the guys about 15 miles away at a different house, and all leading up to the big day, which was beautiful and a lot of fun. So I have to say some of the things that the guys did. So we went to a sports bar one night. We did hatchet throwing. It was my first time ever doing axe or hatchet throwing as a I know that's become quite a thing here in the Midwest. I'm not sure if that's true for other parts of the world, but basically groups of people get together with lanes, just like you have bowling lanes, and you learn to throw sharp objects at wooden walls. And it's a lot of fun. A good time. Sometimes that's accompanied by drinking, which I don't always recommend together, but if done in a safe manner, there's a way to do it. We played a lot of, there was the Airbnb we stayed at was massive, one of the largest homes I've ever been in. And there were foosball tables, pool tables, basketball courts, ping pong tables. We set up video game consoles in multiple rooms, and we're playing Call of Duty. And it was just a lot of fun. There were hot tubs. We sat around a fire one night and smoked cigars. Just a lot of fun guy stuff leading up to the wedding. And I really enjoyed being a part of like a bro time like that. As a 38-year-old man, you don't get a lot of those opportunities anymore, to bro it up for a handful of days. So that was a ton of fun.
Cool. You get to stand next to like another guy at a soccer game or something and talk about weather, and that's your bro time for the week.
That's your bro time for the week. And it's one of those things where if it were just me doing that for no reason, it'd be one thing. But when your wife is enjoying her very own version of the same thing just down the road, you feel like you can justify it, right? So that was nice. And the kids were taken care of. Speaking of sporting events and Kendall and Buddy the Elf, Dylan, I wanted to throw something out there, and we can come up with a fun little wager live for what people know as the game. So Kendall, historically, is a University of Michigan fan,
And presently, yes.
and presently,
Yeah.
Dylan and I are Buckeye fans, the Ohio State University. So I was wondering, non-financially, could we come up with a fun thing where we could make the game a little more interesting and say that if the Buckeyes win, Kendall has to eat something weird or do something weird or do a polar plunge or something like that, as long as it's safe. And he can pick that, or we can pick that, whatever. And if Michigan wins, then Dylan and I, like Dylan might have to eat a whole onion or something because he despises them.
This could be the segue that we need to bring up a segment that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, indeed.
Which is has been named, at least the working title, One Last Shot, which is us trying foods that we hate to give them one last good, fair chance. I think maybe this should be a segue to that.
Very well could be. I just wanted to open the door to other possibilities. So I asked Sherry if she had any ideas, and here's where Buddy the Elf comes in. She's like, what if the loser has to eat that pile of breakfast stuff that Buddy eats in the movie that's like spaghetti and syrup and I forget all the like you have to eat a whole plate of that. Or something that's innocent and whatever. We don't want to get weird or dirty or dangerous.
I've actually been kind of curious about the spaghetti breakfast myself. So would be willing to try it.
We don't have to come up with it right now, and we'll put this up to ideas from our listeners, right? Mm-hmm. Like they could suggest what the loser, the whoever's team loses the game would have to do, and we'll film it and put it on socials or on our From the Middle for the Middlers group page or something, or a Midbits thing on YouTube or whatever. We'll put it out there. So we don't have a paywall. If we did, that'd be the type of content that you'd have to pay for. We give it to you people because we love you.
Because we love you.
But if you feel so inclined, our links to all of our other sites does have a tip jar. So just throwing that out there.
So A, is that something you guys want to do? And do you have ideas, B, for what we might do?
I say yes. And if there's not a better idea from a listener, one last shot. We go with our least favorite food or one of our least favorite foods. And we do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say yes, but only because like it's a fun idea, not because I have a rule for myself, and that's like I don't get into the prediction business of football games. Like if somebody were to ask, like I don't know, around here, everybody is so sure of themselves that Ohio State's going to win. And I've never had that attitude with Michigan. And the joke is like, yeah, it's because Michigan. Keep in mind, like I was alive in the 90s when Ohio State couldn't buy a win against Michigan. So I've been on the other side of that coin too. And even then, like I was like, I don't know. But all of that said, I would say yes. And it's just a straight up win for win. It's not like picking against the spread or anything like that.
No. Nope. Whoever wins, the other people do something. And I agreed. Not because we're diehard about that team. Not because even right now you're actually saying you believe Michigan's going to win. We're just saying
I think Michigan's going to win
just for funsies to make the game a little more interesting and for good content.
Yeah. No, I'm game. The one last shot is definitely a great idea. I had not thought about the Buddy of the Elf thing in particular, but I do like that idea. That it's got a little holiday theme to it, which
I'm open. And what's that? A box of spaghetti and some candy and Pop-Tarts,
syrup,
maple syrup,
marshmallows. I think were involved.
Easy. We'll go back to the ingredient list.
The other thing she said was at your family Thanksgiving this week.
Uh-huh.
Pick 5 unrelated items, put them in your fridge, And if your team should lose, you have to eat all of those items together in some fashion, blended or all on the same plate, or some version of like putting weird Thanksgiving stuff on
So
one.
far, like the food stuff to me sounds easy, almost too easy.
Yeah.
Even the one last shot thing for me, like I don't have like vomit reflex for anything that I eat. So even like, and I try things all the time. Probably my least favorite food in the world is olives. And yet when I go to a Greek restaurant and there's olives on my plate, I try them every time because maybe sometime I'm going to like them. So like I still eat the foods I don't like, or at least I still try the foods I don't like.
That's why I was thinking
maybe,
something like, sorry.
No. I said maybe I shouldn't have said that, and I should be pretending that.
As I said, something like a polar plunge would be fun because it's not like dangerous to your health unless you plan on staying in there for 15 minutes.
Sure.
Or like, you know how there's those gimmicky snacks that you can get at places like Buc-ee's or Spencer Gifts that's like eat a tarantula, or just some of those weird things where it's like it's edible and it's safe because it's a consumer product you can buy, but it's still a little icky.
You push the limits that direction. I think we could be. Yeah. I had one of those cricket suckers that you can get. And I didn't enjoy that experience at all. And it was a little bit, there was some anxiety there, but I still did it.
So that's on the table.
I've done the Bean Boozled thing before, and the Bean Boozled thing is disgusting, legitimately. Like, I do not want to do that again. So that might be a good one. I don't know. You can think about it.
Your mention of anxiety put a little twinkle in my eye. So let's find something. Listeners, that gives Kendall a little anxiety.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Love it. Well, this feels like a great spot to take a quick break and hear from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media.
This is Beer in Front. Every week I'll talk about a beer that maybe we've forgotten along the way while we get those check-ins and badges. Being the Chicago beer guy, I'll also talk about great craft beer in the city of Chicago. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. That's Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
In episode 42 of this podcast, and in episode 70 of this podcast, I told deer-related stories.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was episode 70. I could be wrong of the two, but in one of those two, either 42 or 70, I told a very long, very, very long and very sad hunting story. I try to be a responsible hunter. I try to take responsible shots and not wound animals so that they are left to suffer around the world. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, because of that long story, which you can go back and listen to, I decided to take a few years off. So that was about 2 years ago. And I was using equipment that was questionable and old, and drastically reduced my accuracy with those weapons, which led to the irresponsible shot placement and difficulty I was having. And so Sherry, being supportive and knowing that I love the outdoors, gave me the blessing, if you will, to get some proper equipment. And I mentioned that I had done so at the beginning of this archery season. So I got myself a new crossbow, and I got myself a new rifle for Gun Week in the state of Ohio. There is 1 week, that's the week after Thanksgiving, where you're allowed to shoot deer with a rifle instead of a crossbow or longbow, compound bow as it's commonly known. I hadn't gotten out all season. The season started at the end of September, but a week ago Sunday, I had a free day, and I Saturday night started thinking, gosh, this would be a good time to get out there. I've shot the new crossbow a handful of times, and this would be a good opportunity to get out, drive an hour and a half north to our grandfather's land, and get myself in the woods. And just, if nothing else, I'll be in creation. And there was a light snow the night before in the rut. The deer mating season was on, and so I was like, this is as good as an opportunity as any, and I might not get out for a few more weeks. Long story short, went up, spent the night with family, got up super before sunrise the next morning, super cold, walked out to the tree. Within the first 30 minutes was already seeing deer movement. And I was like, this is shaping up to be a good day. Saw a lot of deer that morning. There was 2 does that had walked around my stand. There was a buck that had walked by my stand multiple times when the crossbow that I've now used a handful of times and shot a lot jammed while I tried.
No.
Literally, this is not jammed once on me. And for whatever reason, it jammed. I thought it was the safety. It was not. It was actually jammed. But the buck was now looking at me in the tree stand. So I couldn't move too much to try to figure out what was jammed, or else it would spook him and he would run away. So after he saunters off, I finally figure out the jam, and nothing happens for the rest of the day until right at sunset. As I said, the animal of the edges. I was not out that whole time. I climbed down from my tree stand, went out to lunch, came back in the afternoon, and went back up in the tree stand. And right at the end of the day, that same buck that I had missed earlier in the day presented himself again. I took a shot. He was within 10 yards broadside. His head was behind a tree, so he couldn't see me, but his body was exposed. So it was perfect. Got a great, responsible, clean shot. He didn't make it 10 yards, fell, tried to get back up and fell again. And I knew that it was a good shot and harvested my first buck ever.
Yeah.
And it also happened to be on Dylan and I's grandfather's land, which was very special. I wanted to get a buck on Grandpa's land. And so that finally happened. And I just can't convey enough how much the confidence of proper tools and proper equipment, the confidence that gives you. When we've talked about this before, if you're doing home renovation projects, if you're doing anything, knowing that the tool that you're using, you are confident in, makes all the difference. And that was the gift that she gave me. She didn't give me a crossbow. She didn't give me a rifle. She gave me the confidence to know that I could hunt responsibly. And it made all the difference. And so I'm super excited. I actually, just before recording this podcast, went up to the place where I had the deer processed, picked up 2 huge boxes of venison for the freezer, and also picked up the cape to have professionally mounted by a taxidermist. And I'm going to hang it. You can't see it. I'm going to hang it right up here in this vaulted part of the wall here in my office. And it was just a wonderful experience. And if you don't understand hunting, or if that feels gross or bad or whatever to you, I guess I can understand that. But if you grew up where that was just a way that men bonded, or that guys spent time in nature, you can appreciate what that means. And I know, like Charles, who listens to the podcast, he felt my pain when I shared that really long story back in episode 70. And knows what that's all about. And so he was, I posted on social the picture of the deer, and he was very congratulatory and kind. And I believe he also harvested a deer that weekend. That felt like a nice way to round out what has been a theme of like really bad hunting experiences, with one that went the opposite way. And I'm excited to give you guys some venison to try. And, it was just really special, and I'm super excited.
That is a feel good, man.
Yeah, tools do make a huge difference. You weren't out there, like whipping butter knives at a deer,
Helpful.
And then
yeah.
also, that's what the deer gets for like being all smug, sauntering off in the morning, like,
Yeah.
can't hit me. So like, he was a little smug. That's what he gets.
Yeah. I'm going to go parade in front of that guy who doesn't know how to work that crossbow.
Yep, exactly. Or butter knives. I
was able to now confirm that was the 4th time that day that deer had walked by my stand inside of 20 yards. And so he was fixing to die.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. Anyway, I had to share that because of all the other poor deer hunting stories. So thank you guys for joining me in the celebration.
There's a couple funny things. I have friends. I've never been a hunter, but I have friends who are, and there's a couple of friends in particular who either they process their own or I know that their dads do or did. And there's one story in particular, which was I had a friend of mine who I spent some formidable years with, and he ended up moving away toward the end of high school. And but close enough that I could drive, and so I would visit them, and they lived out in the middle of nowhere, and he and his dad and his brothers hunted, and his dad processed the deer himself, and he had a sister who thought that the whole thing was gross and disgusting, and but she would have to endure. And the house that they moved into had a walkout basement, which meant that there was like a deck above them. And so like right in front of the patio.
Oh, we lose him right at the
From the bottom of the deck.
No, you cut out. Hold on. You
Cut
said
out.
right in front of the.
Right in front of the patio doors for the walkout basement. She had to like endure the fact that right there were these dead deer hanging from
just
the
hanging from the
from the rafters above of the deck,
Ah.
which I find funny. Another guy that I know who usually when you think of hunters, especially the kinds of guys who process their own, live out in the sticks where they can do what they want and nobody knows what they're doing. But I do know at least one guy who lives like in downtown Columbus, like has neighbors like that he could probably touch their houses from his window in all directions, very small yards. Nope, he's hanging deer in his backyard for all of his neighbors to see. And,
I love that. I wish I could see their faces.
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so I confirmed while you were telling that story, and thank you for adding on. So it is episode 42 where I tell the really bad deer hunting story. I think that's the second half of that episode. And then episode 70 is not a deer hunting story. It's the story where the car in front of me hit a deer on the road, and I had to pull out my Glock and finish it off in the ditch, which we joked was apparently the only way that I could kill deer. So there have been two infamous deer stories on this podcast, and those are the episode numbers.
Beautiful. Speaking of the wedding, I have a question for you.
Good segue.
You're really good at those, Dylan.
Did you like that?
It was very good.
I had another one. I was gonna say, speaking of animals and bad guys, have you seen the new movie? Have you seen the new movie on Netflix? No. So I do have a social etiquette question. You brought up the wedding. I had dropped some stuff. I took some stuff to the dry cleaners. A couple days later, I go to pick it up. They're not quite done. So I'm sitting in like right by the cash register or whatever. There's a chair. Lady walks in, says she's there for her coat. The coat is right there. The person working grabs the coat. The lady kind of pulls up the plastic cover, whatever, just confirming it's her coat. And the person working says, oh my gosh, I love your jacket. And so now drawing attention to the jacket, I've sort of turned my head, and it's a very fuzzy, kind of over the top, fuzzy, probably fake animal jacket. That was the hunting segue too. Probably a fake animal jacket, but like a very fuzzy over the top. Fine. The lady says, oh yes, it's so warm. I've had it for a while. Da, 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 da. And then the worker says, yeah, one of the guys here, Tony, liked it so much he had to try it on. And then she felt like she needed to clarify by saying, to make it okay, it was before we cleaned it, he tried it on. Like, you don't need to worry. He didn't try it on after we cleaned it. He had to try it on and get a picture because he loved it so much. And God bless this customer who just blew right by it and played it off totally normal. But I'm sitting there thinking, hold up. This doesn't feel like a thing you're supposed to admit to anyone that's coming in the doors, that I'm sure we all think that you do at some point. But I don't expect you to ever admit, we try the things on that we clean and hemp. So I'm feeling very uncomfortable for this customer. She's very polite and blows right by it. and says, "Oh yes, it's very warm. Thank you." Grabs the coat and leaves. The person working makes no fate. There's no like post-mortem going on in her head after that interaction. I was hoping that I would look up and see her face going, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that," kind of nothing. Nothing registered at all.
Wow.
So I'm wondering, how do you feel? Do you feel like you knew that happened anyways, but you never expected somebody to just outright admit it? Are you surprised that it even happened? Would you even ever go back knowing that they're admitting that to customers? I had very mixed feelings on the whole thing.
In the realm of things that I thought was probably happening in the world but didn't want to know about, like a line cook spitting in your food if you send your plate back, we can assume that might happen. I'd rather just, you know what I mean? I never thought people at a dry cleaner were trying on other people's clothes. And is this a woman's coat?
It's a woman's coat
that
yes.
Tony tried on?
I'll be, to be 100% clear, I don't remember the name, but I do remember it was a male sounding name, and it wasn't an ambiguously male sounding name like Alex. It was like something like Tony or Dave or Andrew.
Either way, man, it's 2020. We can't be making these assumptions. It wasn't a women's coat.
It doesn't
no one has
really
asked
matter.
For that coat.
It doesn't really matter, but like if there was a way that could have been said that was more startling to my brain, it was a very clear male name with a coat that I wouldn't have picked first to put on a male. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, if you mean it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. If you mean it doesn't matter to the story, it does matter to the story.
I think it does matter to the story. I don't care that Tony really liked a jacket that in my mind is for a woman. I mind that it was more jarring for me to hear, but it still adds to the detail of the story.
Maybe Tony lost a football bet.
Maybe. But I think you started to tee it up, and then we pivoted at Tony. That's a thing that you imagine is happening, but you certainly don't want to know about it.
Did you think that people at dry cleaners were trying on clothes?
Look, I'm not sitting there imagining that somebody's like trying on like boxer briefs, but like a really nice coat comes in every now and then, and somebody's looking at it like, oh, this is nice. It's probably my size. I wonder, how like throwing a coat on real quick and going, yeah, it looks. Not that I'm saying I'm not saying I'm endorsing it. Let's be clear. I'm not saying I think it's okay. I'm saying I think it's probably happening here and there that somebody's going, Kramer's walking into Jerry's coat that he gets rid of his old coat because he's got the new one with the candy cane striping inside. And Kramer wants to try it on and see how he looks. Like I'm imagining that. Just like
now that you mention the story, I can easily imagine that it's a thing that has happened before. I'm just saying I would have never come to that conclusion because that's so strange to me to just stumble upon that idea that people are just trying on other people's clothes at a dry cleaner.
I guess what I'm saying is it's not so strange to me that it actually happened. It's that the employee voluntarily and willingly told the story to a customer. It's not like she was telling another person who walked in and walked behind the counter.
Right.
It was like, oh yeah, did you see that? Tony tried it on and really liked it. This is to the owner of the thing.
Mm-hmm. So you got to assume that the owner of the thing is probably maybe of a mind of us, which is like, I have never thought of that before. When you bring it up and I have a moment to think it through, it makes sense. And I might not even care. But that customer was likely in a scenario where that has never crossed their mind, and they just found out that it's happening and it's happening to them, and now they have to go through their mental process and come out with,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a good citizen to the person I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Like we're there already. I think now. I think that if I correct me if I'm wrong, but that wouldn't gross me out. And as a matter of fact, I can probably understand that, hey, you're working at a dry cleaner. You got to do something to make it fun. Or maybe even
This isn't drying on prom dresses.
or maybe even different brands of different styles of coats come through and you're just trying to figure out, hey, if I want to buy off the rack, what's my best fit? And so now you're creating your own little catalog and journal, and you're narrowing it down so that when you get out of the dry cleaner business and you can afford a suit, you know what brand that you can go to regardless. If that happens to me at a dry cleaners and that fumbles out of the person's mouth, I now can respond with, oh, that's funny, ha ha, and leave. Instead of responding with a, what the and I am surprised, and I commend this lady, this customer, for not responding with
Right.
a, what the
Right.
just happened.
So if you tell me, did you know that when you go to a fancy restaurant, sometimes the valets take the cars around the block a time or two before they park them? I go, yeah, I assumed that was happening. If you also say, do you know that people that come in and clean your house once a month occasionally go through your medicine cabinets, even though they're not cleaning it? I go, okay, fine. I believe that happens in a world. But again, I get it. Just this never, I'm stunned. I never thought they're trying on coats and stuff.
You're making this sound really nice. And in my head, I want to like, there's Sebastian is coming out, and I'm like, Tony is free balling it in your $1,000 suit pants, and you're thanking him and paying him for it. And I don't understand what's happening. He's been sharding in his underwear all day, and then he wants to try your pants on that are there to be clean.
The only acceptable amount of touch that's allowed to happen to my coat is when your greasy hands are using the steamer on it. Anything else is off limits.
Wild. It was a minor level of shock. And I thought, I don't know that hasn't happened with my clothes. And here we are. And I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know. There we go.
If you get nervous about it, all you got to do is imagine the person across the counter trying on your pants when you go to drop them off.
I want to get to know my local dry cleaner well enough now to be like, listen, between you and me, you ever try stuff on in here? Just like just for fun, just to pass the time, you guys trying some of the stuff on? Hey, speaking of weddings and people in the service industry, we had Ray the barber, Kendall's barber, on a handful of episodes back. One of you two can look and tell me which episode that was while I'm telling the story. And I needed to get my beard trimmed up and looking fresh before the wedding, as well as get my head shaved. And so I got to visit Ray's spot for the first time. And not only did he crush it, but I enjoyed myself while I was there. And think the idea of that little collective thing that they're doing there in Gahanna is awesome. I don't know how to describe it well, other than like, it's just a big open space with these little hotel cubes that you can rent out, and all different types of barbers and acupuncturists and salon people can have a small business in there, and then they pay a small monthly rental fee and run their business out of there. That was episode 145 with Ray the barber. We had a lot of fun. We laughed a lot, and man, he did a great job. And then Kendall was in there like an hour later.
Yeah, no, I had my appointment scheduled, and you sent a text. It's like, I'm seeing your boy Ray today, and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing him in a few hours actually. So
yeah. So if you're in the Central Ohio area and want a clean cut, get the Booksy app and hit up at Ray the barber all one word, and set your appointment. He does a great job.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I hope we should have him on again sometime.
We will do
in the
that.
future. I was talking to him last week about Thanksgiving, and I knew about his dad that for Easter, like he cooks all of the meats. He's like a barbecue aficionado. And so I asked Ray, I'm like, does your dad go like barbecue nuts on Thanksgiving? Assuming he does. And indeed he does. And so we were talking about side dishes and things like that. And I know last year we went through like the state by state, like side dishes per place. And we had a big conversation about green bean casserole because Ohio and like, it's like number 2 on the national list of most popularly liked side dishes in the country. But, like their Thanksgiving meal is akin to a Southern Thanksgiving meal. And their sides are like mac and cheese and like cornbread, hash brown bake and I'm like, our Thanksgiving meal here for most of us is turkey, which in my opinion sucks, and mashed potatoes, which are great, stuffing, which can be good, but most of the stuff we get around here sucks. In my opinion, I'm not a sweet potato guy. Like for me, the Thanksgiving meal is not something that I look forward to. I look forward to hanging out with my family and all of that good stuff and watching the Lions lose and all kinds of cool things that happen on Thanksgiving. The meal itself, I don't care for, but the Southern Thanksgiving, I could get behind that.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
I want Ray's dad to barbecue everything for me. I want mac and cheese.
How do we secure an invite?
So, and how do we get grab them in the brisket guys together with Ray's dad so they can all be like cooking in like a semicircle around us?
Yeah.
And then we can just sit and eat.
Every week. That is
every week.
That is how we record.
That's so funny that you brought the Southern thing up. I'm on a team call this morning at work, and I ask everybody, all right, throw out your main dish, 2 sides, and a dessert. What are you serving for Thanksgiving? Even if you're not preparing it, like what would you have? Yeah. And this dude, Anthony, God bless him. You know when he just casually, he's in Florida. You know what he just casually throws out as one of his sides?
What?
Like it's not just a big deal. He's like, yeah, my wife makes a killer lobster mac and cheese.
Get out of town.
And he's like, I mean, it's not like the main entree. And I'm like, that's as much the main entree as Kanye running up to grab the mic, from Taylor Swift.
Exactly.
Like, that's it's friggin' lobster mac and cheese. Yeah. And this dude's just casually throwing it out like,
I'm gonna let you finish, but can we talk about this lobster mac and cheese?
Talk about this lobster mac and cheese. Like, okay, we're all coming to your house. Like, let us know when we can show up. Like, it's just a casual side. Freaking lobster mac and cheese. This guy.
Yeah, you people in the South, you have no idea how good your Thanksgiving is. You come up here, you get a dry, weird Thanksgiving. Everybody's just waiting for pie.
There's no reason we can't copy that.
Well, correction. Everyone's having mashed potatoes and then waiting for pie.
Exactly.
That's the order.
Hey, my wife and I, we're on the same. We're of one accord with the Thanksgiving meal and how we're going to change things. But now it's like when you're doing parents' house and that kind of thing, you're just kind of obligated to still do the same old thing because that's what they're going to do. And no, we're gonna in 2020 when we didn't go anywhere for Thanksgiving, just stayed home. We did takeout from an Indian place. Best Thanksgiving meal I have ever had, and that's what I want to do from now on.
Either that, or you're getting a BLT pizza or the taco pizza.
Taco pizza, yeah.
Taco pizza for Thanksgiving.
That's right. I'm going to have to take and bake that sucker.
I dig it.
2 of our main Thanksgivings, we have at least 3. 2 of the main Thanksgivings are going to be non-traditional Thanksgiving foods. One, we're going to a Thai restaurant as a family.
Nice.
And the other one, I forget what we said we're doing, but it ain't traditional. So I'm excited to have some non-traditional Thanksgiving foods.
Good.
Hey, if you get some time off this Thanksgiving, I have a strong show recommendation. I binged The Severance. Actually, it's just called Severance. It's not I'm not a boomer adding the in front of things that doesn't need to be there. Oh my gosh. I am prone to hyperbole, so I will try to rein in my verbiage. It is one of the best television series I've watched in the last couple of years. It is not it's one of, it's right up there. It's got a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's on Apple TV Plus. Adam Scott. Let's see who else. I know John Turturro is in it. Christopher Walken, Patricia Arquette. The premise of the show, if you don't already know, is that there's this company kind of doing a mysterious service for the world. And in order for employees to work on the data management floor of this company, they go through a medical procedure such that everything that happens to them at work is completely severed from their outside of work life. So they don't remember anything. They cannot pass messages to their out of work self, and vice versa. And they call them innies and outies. Innies when you're at work and outies when you're outside of work. And it's this really weird, beautiful. It's got some like Wes Anderson feel to it. The decor is like 1950s and 60s brutalist architecture mixed with like 60s, 70s music and at times 80s fashion. It's very minimalist. It's almost a featureless set. Like there's nothing really interesting about any of the rooms they're in. They're just very void of frills and it's very stripped down and it's super dry, but like at times hilariously funny. But the thriller suspense piece of you trying to figure out what is this company up to and what's really going on feels kind of like it felt to watch the Dharma Initiative in the TV show Lost. You didn't really know what they were up to, but you could tell there was a lot of money behind it and something nefarious is going on, but you're not sure what, and nobody really knows. It's so bingeable and so good, and Adam Scott is wonderful in it. I highly recommend it if you've got Apple TV Plus. If not, find a friend that has one and get their login credentials. It's worth it. So good.
I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because I've not seen it, but I have wanted to. I've almost started, but then I thought it seems really gimmicky, and I'm probably not going to like it. But now I'm gonna have to check that out.
Give it a shot. Watch and it's not one of those shows where it's like watch 7 episodes and then you'll know. You'll pretty much know right away if it's your speed or not. So at least give it an episode. And man, so good. And I will say, without giving anything away, and I'm very bummed to hear that they only just now started filming season 2. So it's gonna be a minute before we get it on Apple TV Plus. But the season 1 finale is so good and so satisfying and not at all satisfying. So
it sounds like my kind of thing. I like guessing. I like dissonance.
Yeah.
I like dissonant endings.
And then they added new episodes of The Crown, and Sherry and I are binging that. So that's all I got.
Yeah. And honestly, if you don't have Apple TV Plus, you should get it anyways to watch Ted Lasso, because the next season, I think, comes out in January or February. I have 3 different recommendations for very different reasons and very different genres, not including The Crown, which we did binge The Crown. This might be the least exciting season, but kind of like Pixar, the worst Pixar movie is still very good. And it's kind of like that. Like, the worst season of The Crown is still very entertaining. But 3 very different recommendations depending on your mood and what you have going on. While we're on Apple TV Plus, check out Spirited if you're in the Christmas mood already, because Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds did their take on essentially a Scrooge sequel. And I'm not going to say the movie was incredible. It definitely had some funny parts, but the soundtrack and the music is surprisingly very catchy for the original songs that they created. So you can expect a little bit of Will Ferrell's silliness and Ryan Reynolds' Deadpoolishness, but in kind of a family-friendly-ish format for Apple TV Plus.
I saw the trailer on the little banner that auto scrolls when you're in the streamer, and I was like, "Oh, I know Sherry and I are going to watch this. Is it appropriate for kids?"
Teenagers, probably not younger. I wasn't. Bree and I weren't watching it when our kiddo was awake, so we didn't have like our extra filters on like while we were watching it. So there's probably some language that slipped through that we didn't have to like try to listen for. I would say that it's probably a teenager. Think almost Scrooged a little bit is with
like Elf, a little worse than Elf.
No, not Elf. Isn't Scrooge with Bill Murray like a little bit of a dark humorish take on? Think that more than
Gotcha.
Elf. Not something you're throwing on for the whole family necessarily, but maybe you'll go back and watch it and say it's fine because different parents, whatever. But the sound, it's worth it alone just for the soundtrack, just to listen through to the original music that was created, which is just fun. It's not an incredible soundtrack. It's a very fun soundtrack. And so go check it out for that. Very enjoyable. If you want, I don't know, Corey, if you've seen The Bad Guys on Netflix. This is a DreamWorks movie where there's 5 animals that are the bad guys. There's a shark, there's a piranha, there's a spider, there's a snake, there's a wolf. In a world of humans, mostly humans, but then there's some other animals that play key roles. And they are the traditional animal bad guys that are, and this is like if Ocean's 11 met the Pixar movie with the bunny cop. It's
Zootopia.
Zootopia. It's sort of like an Ocean's 11 movie met Zootopia. But the thing that's really interesting about it, it was unlike Pixar, more for kids than probably the parents, although I laughed out loud several times. The animation style is super interesting. It's like it feels a little bit like your normal, all the movies that are CG now, but it's got some little detail and maybe cell shading or something that makes it feel 2D at times. And then the humans have this sort of almost anime-esque quality. They've got like the triangle pointy teeth and like different expressions. So it feels a little bit like the Red Panda characters a little bit and over the top a little bit like anime. But like, if nothing else, turn it on and watch it for 20 or 30 minutes if you're into like different art styles, because it felt very much like a refreshing differentiation from all the CG animated movies that are out. Not to the degree of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but definitely more so than the average CG movie. And again, I did laugh out loud several times. So my 4.5-year-old watched it and I had no problems with it. So that one you can definitely throw on for anybody. And then finally, the World Cup is on, and I've already been able to watch several games on the new TV in the basement, and it's been great. This slow crescendo of me becoming a football/soccer fan is happening, and we've got the World Cup.
Dude, I'm so excited for you to be diving headlong into a new sport. I just finished the F1 season and I watched every single race of the season in its entirety, except for the last race of the season because I was in a wedding and forgot to DVR it. How are you deciding? Like, I mean, the World Cup is just a gigantic tournament essentially, right? So
right.
Do you have a horse in the race, or do you want to root for somebody in each league? How are you just enjoying and just soaking up as much as you can, and you may or may not pick a favorite team or a team to follow from there? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, well, this is different because this isn't normal teams. This is obviously everyone playing for their country. So more so than anything, as I'm trying to figure out like teams around the world I might want to watch or root for eventually, something that somebody on the interwebs pointed out about World Cup that's kind of fun is this is a good opportunity to see personalities play for their home countries that you can follow back to their team once the World Cup is over. So it just started, like it started in the last like day or two. So I watched the home country Qatar lose, which if you're following global politics, like some people are boycotting because it's even in Qatar, and like it's a very conservative Middle Eastern country. So do with that what you want. I'm watching it because I've never been an adult interested enough to watch, and here I am, and it's on, and I have the ability to stream it on a nice TV. So Qatar lost. I was not upset about that. Part of the difficult thing is a lot of the games are on in the middle of the night for us, so they're trying to push the games they know we would want to see to like 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. or like 11 and 2. So I was working today and was able to flip on USA Wales, which full circle back to welcome to Wrexham and watching the Welsh team getting to play a little bit, play USA. It was a tied game, which was a lot of fun. And I'm trying to learn some of the personalities. And England beat Iran. I didn't get to watch any of that, but that's another one I would have watched. But then I'm also enjoying some of the parallels to having been playing FIFA. Like some of the things that you realize what the game does really well, like the chanting and singing while the game's going on in the background of the game. I just ordered FIFA 23 because I need to play as Ted Lasso, and they put AFC Richmond and Ted Lasso in the game. So now I bought another one, but I'm enjoying that. And then some of the little things, like they showed History Guy, love medieval history. They showed a snippet of the England game. They cut to a fan who has an all-white face painted with the red English cross, and he's wearing chainmail armor around his painted face. And you're just like, he's so into it. It's awesome. And then there's a video, a Middle Eastern guy has a traditional, like the long outfit and the long sort of thing around his head that comes down. I don't know the name of him. He's filming the Japanese fans that are going around the stadium, not even after the Japanese game. The Japanese fans are just there cleaning up the whole stadium, spotted all over the stadium, in between picking up bottles and trash and taking trash bags to go, picking up flags from other countries and trying to lay them flat so they're not laying on the ground. And it's just like wild, just cool, just like little behind the scenes snippets and neat things, like bravo, Japan, and it's been fun so far. So if somebody wants to hate me for the politics swirling around it being in Qatar and me still watching it, fine. It's the first one I've really gotten to watch as an adult. So I'm sorry.
I don't feel like we yet live in a world where you're obligated to explain why you're not boycotting something that 15 other people decided they needed to boycott. And then now if you're not boycotting it, then for some reason that means you hate them and everything they stand for. And it's too confusing. If you want to watch soccer, watch soccer. It's freaking simple.
We're up to 8 billion people on the planet. I'm sure I'm not the only one still watching it in Qatar. So,
yes.
I'll save my moral outrage for the next one and whatever.
You can hate Qatar if you want. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. Well, you can still watch soccer.
That's what I said. It felt a little better that the only way that they were allowed to even qualify is because they were hosting and they lost. Isn't that justice enough? Like their first World Cup and they lost. What else do you want? So, anyways, So big match coming up in a couple days from when this one drops. The USA is playing England. So I probably won't do a ton of highlights of World Cup because you're going to get way better highlights from whatever news. And a lot of these games are on Fox in the US or the Fox app. But I'm excited. To throw that one on.
Wasn't the US opener with Wales? And I think that game was a draw. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, they had 1-1 with Wales. So the big test will be. From my limited knowledge, US probably should have beat Wales. England is the big test in their group. So I'm curious to see the other groupings and see who else is playing who. But I'm just
I was
so
say,
far.
the pregame line on the United States and Wales was plus 150 for USA, which for betting people, that means that you have to, if you spend $100, you get 150 back, which means that meant that Wales was a favorite in that game, but not by a whole lot.
Yeah, could be. I'm far from an expert. I'm probably wrong. So listen to Kendall. Yeah, I just even looking ahead, like there's some other cool games coming up, but like these times are nuts. So
How long does this last? Is this like a 2-week thing, like a month? I don't even know.
let's see. ESPN app has the finals on December 18th. So about a month.
Okay.
It's about a month-long thing. And so you can kind of see as I'm scrolling through ESPN to see the times, the morning game. So the middle of the night games are Argentina, Saudi Arabia, and then Denmark, Tunisia. If you're American, probably not as intrigued by those, just from a caring about other countries. But then you can see Mexico, Poland would be the morning game, and France, Australia would be the afternoon game. Okay. So you can tell that there's probably the scheduling has probably been done in a way that the games that would matter more to the American audience might be being pushed, later in the day or whatever. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it sure feels like it. So, but what do I know? So
keep us posted. That's exciting. I'm excited for you and I knew it because it's like the Olympics or like the Pro Bowl, right? Where players from all kinds of teams are on the country team.
Right.
So, But like you said, it's a good way to learn a player and then go, I think I'm going to follow his team.
I mean, you're staring down the best players generally in a given country. And so like Wales hasn't made an appearance in 50 years in the World Cup, but they made it this year. We hadn't been in for 8 years. So, so now you're getting to see, and of course they always say, just like, if Tom Brady, if his team's playing that week, they're going to say Tom Brady and the so-and-so are taking on, key player and the so-and-so. They're doing the same thing with countries. So like Pulisic in America are taking on Mbappe in France and, they're doing the same thing. So they're highlighting these like iconic figures from the different countries and talking about them. And so it's cool. It's been fun so far.
That's cool, man.
Kendall, what you watching, bro?
So, I've been getting into Andor, which has been really good. It's been really good. It's a sleeper binger for me, which that is a weird term for me. What that means is it took me a long time to come around to like trying it. Like I had to run out of things to try it. And then once I did, like I kept watching it, kept wanting to know things. But then I find myself like, should I try something else? Like it's one of those. Once I'm in it, I'm in it. And then when I have to like, turn it off because I'm tired, like it takes me a day or two to get back into it. But I am enjoying it. There's just something about the accent that like makes me feel like I'm watching a Star Wars version of Princess Bride. I mean, it's got like some of the same scenery, and then I just keep waiting for Andor to come out and say my name is whatever, Inigo Montoya.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yeah, but he hasn't done it yet. But I'm waiting for that moment. I think that's probably going to be in the season finale. I think it's heading that direction. So that's my Star Wars synopsis for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It has huge implications.
Yeah.
The Monday Night Raw after Halloween was my handpicked moment to start getting back into WWE wrestling
again.
Yeah. So we'll see how long this one lasts, but that was fun. A wonderful time to get back in. You have to, if you're going to time, I need something exciting to watch. That's going to just like make me dive back in. Something like the Monday after Halloween is the time to do it, because that's when you get to see like the Trick or Street fight.
I'm a
I'm
little
gonna-
bummed.
Yeah.
I'm a little bummed that Dylan never joined us in that endeavor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a little help, not because I'm watching WWE, but I was browsing some of the early Black Friday deals. I found it like a new solid state 2 terabyte solid state drive. I'm gonna upgrade my PS5,
Mhm.
and there were some games that I knew that I wanted. So I bought several. FIFA 23 was discounted. That was one. There's a new gen Pokemon game out. I'm gonna try that for the Switch with my daughter and see if she likes kind of starting that. It's an open world game. I think that would be a fun one. I also stumbled across a heavily discounted WWE 2K22. And so I might need help learning some of these wrestlers because I'm going to try a little bit of WWE wrestling on the big TV and making my own character and trying to
Wonderful.
fight through some of these, just like we did many a time on N64 with like WCW versus NWO and all the Rumble games. I don't even remember all the names now. So I'm not going to be watching WWE, but I am going to be playing the video game a little bit. And so I might be texting you for like, hey, this character seems cool. What's the story?
Mm.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to be your resource for that.
Perfect.
Well, and if none of that sounds good to you guys and gals, we're just going to go ahead and end the episode with this. Did you know that there is a... I can't even say it. Oh, it did the thing again where it's not going to let me do the video.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll do it. I won't do it in full screen mode. Apparently, Zoom doesn't like it when you do full screen trailers because it thinks you're trying to do something nefarious. Did you know there is an Indian Forrest Gump play?
No.
No. A play, you said?
No, I'm
वो हम कर दें या फिर हम हवा बीच ऐसे ही उड़ते फिरते हैं यहाँ से वहाँ
this is
Hello?
real. This is real.
Nice. Okay,
It's
so
a-
they're
It's an exact replica.
yeah. With Indian characters. This is wonderful.
I'm definitely watching this.
They're doing a remake and oh, I wonder if they did the entire feather scene. They would have had to like shoot that themselves because it's been such an iconic thing in the film world.
Do you think he's still going to go to Vietnam?
विश्वास नहीं करते
Oh, it's a good question. Do they?
It's
And
one. It's an Indian war.
हाँ
Okay. Okay. And it's track and field. It's the sport that he. All right. Hey, I'm on board.
Oh, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
guys
So, what do you know about this, Corey?
They were talking on. They were talking about it on Bad Friends today, and I was like,
Yeah.
I have to run this by the guys. I say we just get together at Dylan's house and watch this.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding. We'll get some
So
pizza.
So the question was like, is he gonna meet the American president, or is he gonna meet like an Indian politician? And then will he fight in Vietnam, or is this like a war that India was in? And so, but yeah, essentially it's the exact same thing. I don't even think this is new. Oh no, it is a trailer 5 months ago.
Mhm.
But yeah, go check out the trailer for Lal Singh Chadha, which is a remake, almost shot for shot in some ways, of Forrest Gump,
Yeah.
but the Indian version.
Yeah, they're doing what we would do to a film like a foreign film, and that like they're putting in the appropriate cultural changes so that it's relevant to their audience, and then
Yeah.
they're making the movie. Yeah,
And apparently,
I'm
this is a thing Bollywood does all the time. I just didn't know that they remake a ton of popular American films.
Yeah.
So
I mean the downside is they're probably not given credit to
Yeah.
who they probably ought to be giving credit, but
I mean, Russia had its own version of the Avengers that was like one of them was a bear man, and like they were all like Russian culture themed superheroes. That was like a collection of superheroes.
are
And
you
so
sure Bear Man wasn't just Vladimir Putin with his shirt off?
It could have been. It could have been.
still riding a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been fun catching up, guys. Please do visit our sponsors if you have any facial hair and want to make that facial hair look good and smell good. And that the way to do that would be to go to artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com and use promo code the middle. That's THE middle at checkout. Fill that cart, get 25% off of that entire order. We would really appreciate you supporting our sponsors. It's been fun catching up. Let us know what you want the three of us to do with our little friendly non-wager wager for the game. So if you have ideas for that, let us know in the comments below. And we appreciate it. If you feel like sending us a little something in the tip jar, that'd be cool too. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday with your family and friends.
Yeah.
Eat anything other than turkey. And we'll see you all next week.